you very much. First, I want to thank the organizers of this conference, and also all the speakers for the great opportunity to talk about innovation. I will try to bring the pharmaceutical industry perspective, but in a broader context also in this discussion. Actually, when I prepared this presentation with my team, I wanted to start by the definition of pharmaceutical innovation, how we see it in the pharmaceutical industry. We try to do it with the team, not by going on the net and looking about general definition. We try to brainstorm between us. The first thing that we thought about, of course, in the pharmaceutical industry, pharmaceutical innovation is about bringing value-added medicines. I would say that's the obvious one. But more and more, we also provide beyond the pill services, and for instance, more and more we see delivery systems that are added to the medicines themselves. So that's one angle. And then we said, but we cannot avoid talking about digital technology because it's everywhere in what we are doing, in the way we design clinical trials, in the way we analyze more and more data, in the way we manufacture also our products. So digital is there, and it's very important. Then we discussed also about the fact that innovation can be perceived as a process also. It's in a certain way, it can be seen as the results of an evaluation process. And in Greece, in Europe, we have this health technology assessment process. And finally, what we said is that to have the right definition of innovation, in my perspective, we need to look at the patient perspective. We can talk about innovation when actually there is an impact on the patients, when there is a better outcome for the patient, when there is greater convenience and access, and when there is simplicity for the patients and also for the healthcare providers. Now, once we try to define what innovation is, what about the impact of innovation and why we consider that innovation is important and valuable? Of course, the first point is the patient's perspective. Thanks to innovation, the patients can live longer, healthier, and they can have more productive lives. As a second point, there is also an impact on the healthcare system, of course. And innovative medicine can put a healthcare system on a more sustainable path by reducing hospitalizations, for instance. If we broaden a little bit the perspective, innovation also has a large impact on economies. And the biopharmaceutical industry generates essential economic value in terms of job creation, R&D investment, and medication that improve patient productivity. And just to give you one number that I actually took in the EU pharmaceutical strategy recently published, the pharmaceutical industry represents 800,000 direct jobs in the European Union. So it's quite significant in terms of economic impact. And at the end, of course, all of that can be summed up in a significant impact on the society. So the society can benefit from pharmaceutical innovation. And of course, given the current perspective of the public health, I think everybody will agree that pharmaceutical innovation definitely has big value for the society. If we look at the global environment, so something that is quite exciting is that innovation, the pharmaceutical innovation is quite dynamic. There are currently, and the numbers that you are seeing here on the slide are published by FPA, the European Association, and it's quite a dynamic environment. There are more than 7,000 medicines currently in development. In several very different therapeutic areas. And this is quite exciting because what we believe is that this innovation will bring long-term benefits to both patients and the society, as I said before, across areas of high unmet need. So quite an exciting time for pharmaceutical innovation. Very quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on Sanofi, but I want to talk about innovation. But I want to illustrate with Sanofi numbers what it is innovation and how do we handle innovation in Sanofi. So currently in Sanofi, we are focusing our innovation on specialty care and vaccines. We are leveraging new drug discovery platforms and modalities, and we try really to accelerate the development of our medicines and vaccines in order to bring value to the patients as early as possible. You see the numbers on the slide. We are investing 6 billion euros per year in R&D. It's 15,000 people. So we are extremely serious about innovation, and we are convinced that innovation is something very important for the health of the patients. And concretely, a few examples of what we are working on currently at Sanofi. We are working on transformative medicine for type 2 inflammatory diseases. We are working on hemophilia product. We are working on new therapy for hormone receptor positive breast cancer. We are working on potential product for multiple rare diseases, respiratory syncytial virus with immunization here potentially, and also on modifying therapy for multiple sclerosis. So this is quite dynamic, and what is interesting is that I'm presenting here in short the pipeline of Sanofi, but you can take any major biopharmaceutical company, the pipeline will look the same. So this is quite an exciting time for the industry. Many things are coming. Now the point is not only to keep all these nice ideas, these nice products at the level of a pipeline. We need to make sure that these products, these potential products, will actually reach the patients, because this is where, as I said in my introduction, we can talk about innovation. If there is no patient at the end, we are not talking about innovation. Very quickly, the European Commission published end of November a pharmaceutical strategy. I don't go into the details here, of course, but what is very good is that they recognize the value of innovation, the value of the pharmaceutical innovation, and they really insist on the fact that through that in Europe we need to improve, to strengthen the equity and the access and the affordability of innovation throughout Europe. So this is something that is high on the European Union agenda. And what is important is that when we recognize the value of innovation, we need to concretely talk about how to reward innovation. Okay, so there are some various forms. Here I put some of them where innovations can be rewarded. It can be, of course, via intellectual property. It can be via pricing scheme, market exclusivity. We can have ad hoc process, ad hoc regulatory process. COVID-19 vaccine is an example. There is an orphan drug regulation at the level of Europe. So all these incentives are very important. They are important not only to sustain the innovation cycle, but they are also very important to ensure an alignment between the various stakeholders by setting priorities. And I see that as very important. We must have an alignment on what are the unmet needs, where are the main priorities, so that we can all focus, industry, policymakers, officials, European Union, all of us must focus on the right priorities and have the same vision here. So there are good news, as I was saying. The pipelines are very dynamic. I think everybody recognizes the value of medical, of pharmaceutical innovation. But of course, there are still some challenges. On this slide, what we can see is that we can group the challenges in three categories. The first one is about the development of pharmaceutical innovation. Processes are more and more complex. Clinical trials are longer and longer. The cost for development are higher and higher. There is also, on the second part, some environmental challenges. The political environment, economic environment is more and more challenging. There are more and more risks, of course. And challenges also exist at the level of the access to the patient. Here also there is more and more HTA processes potentially dealing patient access, for instance. And so all in all, this creates more complexity, of course. This will always remain complex. But what is important to consider is that there's more and more risk, more and more complexity in an environment that is more and more risk adverse. So we need to solve all together in a certain way this dilemma in order to bring again innovation to the patients. All this complexity, why it's important at the end of the day, I was talking about the patient. Here again, we are talking about potential risk of delay or unavailability of innovation for the patients. So the type of delay that we can have, there can be delay prior to the marketing authorization. There can be delay at the level of the price and reimbursement process, the value assessment process, health system readiness, and delay in some countries, not for Greece, but where you go from national to regional approval. And these delays, and we can look at some data just to illustrate that. If you look at the rate of availability of new medicines in the period 2015-2018, so during that period, EMA approved 172 new medicines. And you see on the graph that depending on the countries, the availability at the level of the country for public is quite different. What is even more a challenge for the society as a whole, it's some countries where you see that there are private availability of some products and not public availability. So in terms of equity here, it definitely creates some challenges. So this is a strong point of attention in order to ensure that patients can access innovative medicines. So if we think about a little bit how we can solve this equation and how a health system can sustain innovation, I said it before, it's complex and it will remain complex, but we have to face this complexity and to handle it all together. Governments, providers, national peers, the healthcare industry, of course. We need to improve efficiencies all together in order to make space for innovation. We need to pay for value. So more and more there are data available. We need to use this data in order to support evidence-based care, to empower patients, empower providers. This is extremely important. In the industry, we need to continue developing innovative therapies, promote medication adherence, and maintain efforts to support innovation as a whole, and to support the access to patients, of course. So this is not easy, but there are solutions. There are solutions here. I just put some examples of some countries, some practices in some countries that can lead to good solutions in order to ensure access to innovation for the patients. Outcome-based reimbursement is something more and more important. And again, with the data available, it's something moving forward. Patient access schemes. We can manage entry agreements for new medicines. What is very important is that we need to set, in our perspective, horizon scanning and have specific funding for innovation in order to build, at the end, a sustainable ecosystem and to have to ensure that the patients will access the innovation. In very short, and as a conclusion, I want to say that Sanofi is committed to innovation and is committed to access to innovation. We are definitely focusing our efforts to help patients and communities to achieve better health outcomes through large-scale prevention and transformative medicines. This is a perspective of innovation. I'm personally convinced that innovation is something extremely important for the society, the healthcare system. And on top of what I said regarding the complexity, all actors must be focused to ensure that there is a common solution for handling innovation. That's my conclusion. Thank you very much.